Hello, people. Uh, Hi, Vedashri. Thank you so much for joining us right away in the beginning. We'll be just waiting for a few minutes before we start. We will also have my teammate and hello, Vedashri, hello. We'll also have our teammate Manasi joining us very soon. Uh, so we're very excited. This is our first Simply Periods live. So very excited about starting this off today. Vedarshi, do you also play? Are you an athlete or? Thank you, Vedarshi. Awesome. Yes, we are also looking at doing more and more of these sessions, and we will let you know for sure what we will soon come out with our next announcement on the session that we do next. Hi, Tanaz. Thank you for joining. Awesome. Okay, so Vedash, you're doing your masters in sports nutrition. Fantastic. So I'm going to quickly invite Manasi. Hi, Rufi. Thank you so much for joining. We're just waiting for uh, Mansi, our speaker, to join. Uh, Not sure if Mansi is getting my invite or not. So, okay, we'll keep trying. She accepts. Okay. Okay, so Mansi is here. Hi, Mansi.
Hi.
Cool. So I hope you can hear me and we can hear
I
you.
am yes. Am I audible enough?
Yes, you are. You are. Okay, fantastic. So this brings us to our first Simply Periods live, and we have Mansi with us. Mansi is a very dear teammate, as well as she's been working with the Simply Periods team for some time now. So we thought, why not start within the team? See what we can learn from each other before we get into our experts. So for everybody who's just new to Simply Periods and is just joining us today, I just wanted to quickly introduce what we do. So Simply Period is an initiative that was started by Simply Sport Foundation, and Simply Sport basically came into being almost 2.5 years back. And through the Simply Sport initiative, foundation, we wanted to work with grassroots athletes. And one of the key things in the Simply Sport mission was to work in women's sport. And we have done a very extensive report, which you all can find on our website. And in this report, one of the critical findings that we had was on menstruation. We will definitely share a very specific post on that, on what we found when it came to menstruation and menstrual health in female athletes, and what did we learn from it. We'll definitely kind of share that. But I think in from that, what came out was Simply Periods, because Simply Periods is basically something that we realized was the need of the hour, because we felt that there is very less narrative or knowledge in the in the open public domain about how do you really train a female athlete? What are the critical things that as an athlete or as a coach or as a as a support staff we all need to know to see how we can empower women athletes and optimize their performance. Periods, of course, play a very important part in that because it's a very important part of our physiology. But I myself was a elite athlete, and I never spoke about periods with my coaches, right? And I never understood it very properly. I didn't have that awareness about my own body, how it functions, what's the role of hormones, and all of that. So with Simply Period, we are trying to see if we can bring that narrative together, and can we kind of make this whole initiative very specific to how do you train a female athlete? What are the things you need to understand about her to empower her? So within this initiative, we do a lot of workshops, which again, you can check out our website, the simplyperiods.org, which is there on our page as well, on the Instagram page. You can check that out and it will give you a list of things that we do. We do workshops. We want to create a knowledge repository through these kind of sessions from our lives. We will do a lot of webinars in the coming months with a lot of experts who will talk about with a very specific gendered lens on how do we train and how do we optimize female athlete performance. And we want to, see if we can do research in this subject. There are a lot of things, exciting things coming out. But today we are here to talk to Manasi, and thank you, Manasi, so much for joining us. Before we kind of go ahead, I would love, Manasi, if you could give us a quick, brief introduction of who you are, what are you doing here?
So I am a physiotherapist, but since I think so a year, I have been exploring into physiology and female health related concerns.
Right.
So I did work with some football players, female swimmers, and also badminton players. So after that, I felt like, especially with after swimming, it felt that as a female athlete, there should be more resources and research to be done in that aspect. So yeah, it has been a good journey till now, and also since I think so past 6 months with Simply Periods, it was really all things good to learn about. Like last I think so 6-7 months have been into teaching here in Simply Periods and also at ISM. So yeah, I have been like a little bit outside physiotherapy. I've been trying to see how physiology can be impacted in with respect to female athletes.
Yeah.
So and also like disorders, how they correlate. Yeah.
Nice. So Manasi basically is a postgrad from Manipal, and then also kind of worked with a lot of athletes in various sports. One of the things was the IWL Odisha team that she kind of got the chance to work with. And she also teaches currently at ISM with the sports science batch there. So she's been around for some time, and today what we are going to talk about, like the topic says, is metabolic health, right? What is metabolic health? What is its connection with PCOS, PCOD? What is PCOS, PCOD? Why is it important to understand it from a female athlete perspective, right? So this is what we are going to try and talk about. We are not going to make it, like a long 1-hour session. It's going to be a quick session, but I would encourage all of you who are listening in right now to kind of put out your questions as you kind of see this live, whenever you have any, and we'll try to address them at the end of the session. And today we are just going to introduce you to these subjects. Also, do keep a lookout for the posts that we keep putting in, because they will be connected mostly to what we are going to talk about today. We have done a series of posts already on metabolic health, so please feel free to kind of look at that after this live is done as well. But right now, focus on this live. So Manasi, let's just get into it. So before we kind of do anything else, let's just get to the basics, right? What is metabolic health? What exactly is metabolic health?
So like we generally see, outward appearance. Metabolic health is something like how we are in the inside of the body, like how our body is processing food and producing energy. So that is something called as basic as metabolism. So when body is, burning of the food or calories we eat, they produce some metabolites or, waste products. Those can be seen in form of blood work or test like glucose test, when, an increase in glucose is seen in the blood compared to what it is, the normal levels, then cholesterol levels, triglyceride levels, and also there are like new measurements now, like triglyceride is to HDL ratio, then it's HB1AC, which gives 3 months glucose control. So all these things are something which are very based on glucose metabolism. Is energy produced more, or like, muscles are built? So there are like two metabolic states, which are like catabolic state and anabolic state of body, which can be like, there are a list of tests which is generally done, and I think so the life is too short to tell which is for what. So the blood tests which are done, they give whether, body is in building state, like is it building muscle, or it is just deriving energy, it needs more energy. So that is called catabolic state.
Okay.
So this together is called the metabolic health, like it gives the condition of the body which it is in.
Okay, so basically, it's metabolic health is, if put into a simple way, it's basically understanding if your body is functioning properly, especially internally, and not just from how you're looking externally, but being able to understand if all your functions are doing well. And the best way to look at it are these simple tests that most of us may be doing. And for all the athletes who are going to join or who are going to kind of see this live later, getting these checkups done regularly is very, very critical to kind of understand if you are a healthy athlete, right? Mansi, any recommendations on how frequently these tests are necessary? Is there any kind of guideline on that?
Like, I feel anything like before starting anything new, any new program, any new training session, I think so a blood work, and also with whom you're working, like with nutritionist or with a trainer or with a coach. So they understand the different parameters on what they will work upon. It's like the baseline test.
Right.
So baseline test, and after every, interval, how your coach or nutritionist has planned the program, after every 2 to 3 months, the test, because you cannot see a very sizable difference in 1 month.
Right.
Since athletes are in good condition, I think so any training program would at least minimum take 3 months. So
Right.
I think so after every 3 months, or depending upon how your coach has designed the program, it would be helpful to do it periodically, at least
Right. Right.
after every 3 to 4 months. Yeah.
Great. So now that we have kind of touched upon what is metabolic health, very simply just understanding if the body is healthy or not, we've also spoken a little bit about what are some of the simple tests or blood work that one can do to understand this thing better. And also we've spoke a little bit about the frequency of this as well, right? So we also spoke a little bit about that. But then we are an athlete platform, right? We're talking about fitness and women and performance and all of that. So why is this so important for an athlete? This whole understanding of metabolic health and these tests. Why do you think is this so important for a female athlete?
Okay, so the basis first thing is we in like India is a like a country where there is a lot of presence of metabolic syndrome or many metabolic disorders like diabetes or cardiac related health issues, and females have a long a spectrum which is like ovarian disorders. So all these things impact how your body processes energy and glucose. So main test which any athlete or like the substance which athlete depends to function is glucose. And glucose metabolism is the first which gets affected with any metabolic disorder, and that affects how much energy he can give to the process. And also the other symptoms like fatigue,
Right.
brain fog, mood changes, all are affected because of an impaired glucose metabolism. So we
Right.
see this in very pronounced way when a person is like diagnosed with diabetes or has a severe diabetes. But if even like a minute changes in this can affect the performance, and that should be measured, so to see how the training plans are working for you.
Right. I think like I had my share of these symptoms coming up because I was always low on iron. The iron content in my body was, I would always have my hemoglobin was somewhere around 10ish, 10 and a half or 11. That's where I used to always be as an athlete. And that's why I think I always had a sense of, brain fog sometimes, or I would just feel very lethargic when I was on my periods. And I got to know this a lot later, that, how important the iron content of the body is for an athlete as well, right? And I think in terms of overall general, numbers in terms of the iron deficiency in the country in women, there is a lot of research on that showing that this is something that is quite prominent, right? When it comes to women in India, the iron part of it.
Iron, vitamin D, B12. So there are like many majors which females have very different profile compared to males.
Right.
And yeah, I think so. All the new what the CGM are coming up are, especially they, like if we see like the coming up of new products with respect to biotech, these are all targeted towards the two populations. So CGM has been, proved very useful for people with diabetes and function. But now they're also like, I know there are, but they're still finding and exploring that thing with athletes to see, how glucose levels can help in building up the performance.
Right. Okay, great. Now one of the important things about metabolic health is also our physiology, the physiological function of, menstruation. And one of the prominent things and the prominent symptoms that you see is around PCOD and PCOS. There are two questions here. One is, what is exactly is PCOD and PCOS? And the second is, how is the metabolic health and that spectrum really connected with these two? So maybe we can start with what is PCOD and PCOS, and then what is the connection of this whole metabolic health
First we
discussion?
will talk with in general menstrual cycle. So there have been few studies when they have said like as the hormones are changing throughout the cycle, as if you see the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, also testosterone, all three hormones are present in female body and they keep on changing during the whole cycle. That usually also affects the metabolic health, because if they are produced too much or too less, the ability to process energy is increased or decreased.
Right.
And that might be pronounced in some women, and that would not, depending upon where they live, what exercise they do, and what are other stressors in their life. So that is like a general idea, and the effects are not seen that much because other things are controlled. But it's PCOS is a condition which is like a spectrum. So PCOD and PCOS are almost same. So it was PCOD before. Before that, it was Levin-Steinhal syndrome. And now, like, it has been named to collect a constellation of syndrome, signs and symptoms.
Right.
So actually, PCOS has three main signs and symptoms, which is, hyperandrogenism, which is the most important. So hyperandrogenism is something, where which is clinical and biochemical. So in clinical, it is, you see hair on the face and excess amount of hair around, around the region of upper lips, chin, even armpits. And so in these, if more compared to how the females generally have hair, that is one sign of hyperandrogenism, which is also called hirsutism, like presence of excess hair.
Right.
And biochemical, which is increased level of testosterone in the body.
Right.
So that is hyperandrogenism.
Okay.
And the other two symptoms are main thing, missed periods or no periods, which is like amenorrhea and oligoamenorrhea.
Right.
And then the third one is polycystic ovary. On investigation, like they see how the ovaries are with the investigation, and in that they found they like in the ovaries there are more cysts in it. So that is how these three like collection is the picture gives
Okay.
of PCOS. So
Okay.
the main thing is we need to differentiate here is even like we have always there is a talk of female athlete triad, and they say okay, if you have stopped the periods or your periods are not at all regular while exercising, you should go and see if it is a female athlete triad. But there are now even a good amount of evidence that PCOS is seen more in female athletes, especially elite athletes, and and that can also be helpful because the production of androgens, which are sex hormones, are more.
Right.
So this is like a spectrum, and there are types of PCOS, which we see, like one of the main type is the person is obese. Metabolic syndrome is something in which the person has a lot of fat around the stomach, has features of less insulin, comparatively less insulin in the body, and that is one. Like person is obese, then the person has polycystic ovaries. She has hyperandrogenism and also missed period. So everything is there, and that is full blown PCOS. That
Okay.
I feel is not generally seen in sports because people are always exercising and they are not clinically
Right.
obese. So that is something, but there are other signs of also PCOS when there is only hypoandrogenic PCOS where there is only more increased production of androgens,
Right.
and there is polycystic ovary, but they
Right.
don't have missed periods.
Right.
Other type is they have missed periods, no features,
Right.
but and also they don't ovulate. So
Right.
there are a lot of permutations of combinations in three symptoms,
Right.
and this is what PCOS is.
Right. Okay. So one of the things that, like I observed a lot in our workshops as well, right? I don't know, I mean, you also have been taking these workshops. And I remember one incident around the PCOS, PCOD thing that, I was asking everybody कि आप लोग का आप ट्रैक करते हो periods या are you having any symptoms or what do you feel when there is a symptom. So I was in a group of 30 girls, just in the range of say 12 to 18, right, in that group. And I just asked कि क्या symptoms, and nobody was able, like most of them were not answering this question कि क्या feel हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है, क्या हो रहा है, right. अब उसमें I just was not getting it because generally in a group you have at least 10 people talking about मुझे ये होता है, मुझे बहुत पेन होता है, मुझे ये होता है, वो होता है, right. And after when we reached second half of the I just started asking about the tracking part, right, कि आप track करते हो नहीं करते हो. So one of the girls just randomly put her hand up and said, ma'am actually ना tracking का कोई point नहीं है. मैंने बोला क्यों, point क्यों नहीं है, मतलब लगता ही नहीं मुझे tracking. So क्यों नहीं लगता. So she's like, नहीं 6 महीने से मुझे पीरियड ही नहीं हुए तो मैं क्या ट्रैक करूं. एंड आई वाज लाइक अच्छा बट आपके पीरियड्स चालू हो चुके हैं क्या. So she said, या पीरियड मेरे चालू थे पर अभी बीच में 6 महीने नहीं चालू हुए. And then suddenly it strike to me and I immediately asked this question to the group, how many girls have been missing their periods. And almost 10, or I'm not joking, 8 to 10 girls actually put their hands up, and they said कि मेरे periods, हमारे periods miss होते रहते हैं, कभी 3 महीने नहीं होते, कभी 2 महीने नहीं होते. And I kind of was in a shock and I asked them कि आपने डॉक्टर को दिखाया, क्या पूछा. Some of them said या हम आयुर्वेदिक ट्रीटमेंट ले रहे हैं, हम ये ले रहे हैं. So what I realized here was that because also of the amount of training that we put in and the triad, right, the amount of hard work that we put in and then not nourishing our body better, or the stress that an athlete goes through, or not being able to hydrate, not being able to sleep properly, all of these things could actually lead to this condition as well for an athlete. And I think one of the things that also young athletes need to be aware of, that not having a period can actually feel like heaven. I mean, you could feel like yaar nahi ho raha hai problem, bas aram se khelo, but I think I was trying to tell that group ki that's not the right approach, right. You need to have your period regularly because that's the sign of a healthy athlete, a healthy human body. So I think that's why this PCOS PCOD discussion is very important in the female athlete ecosystem, because I think a lot of times not having a period is taken as अच्छा हो गया, and that's not अच्छा हो गया, you need to have your period regularly, and the young athletes especially need to know that. Have you had similar experiences when, I mean, as a physiotherapist, have the discussion come up? Has your experience been the same in terms of, how athletes, do they experience this quite a bit or not?
I like obviously the period thing, like having missed it wasn't much, but I have seen many people with, symptoms of PCOD, which can be clinically very observed, like,
Sure.
hirsutism, like, and
Yeah.
acne. These two
Yeah.
things I have observed a lot because
Right.
acne and hirsutism is something they directly go to dermatologist
Hmm.
and they take, ointments and all for that.
Right.
And I think so. It's not wrong to go dermatologist, but
Yeah.
I feel like it is better to always any issue with that always go to an endocrinologist or a gynac.
Right.
So you get a good picture of your hormones where you are, especially with respect to the your training,
Right.
and that would and I think so many dermat would also refer to the concerned people,
Right.
but I especially in rural and tier 2 cities that's an issue because they start treating the symptoms of this, like they have acne, very obvious features of hirsutism, and when I ask have you any time gone to a gynecologist, they say no,
Hmm.
like why to
Hmm.
go, and they also have some period irregularities and also pain related issues, but they never
Right.
go to a gynac. So
Right.
that's something which is there, like we can see on, they have symptoms, some issues, but the visit to gynacs might be like in cities, females are very aware, and especially
Yeah.
those in athletic sports like swimming and gymnastics, or like body training where they have their support system ready.
Right.
But I feel in tier 2 cities and other, grassroots programs that should be in the referral system always with any diagnostic thing.
Right.
Because I feel in physio and all other ecosystem also, female athlete triad has always got a lot of attention
Right.
because
Right.
it's the main issue. But the thing is, PCOS needs a lot of diagnosis and attention to people, not with injuries and showing some clinical features of it. And it
Right.
should be actually there in, screening programs to rule out any PCOS related signs and
Right.
symptoms.
I was going to just come to that, and before I kind of ask you the last two questions, again for people who are here, and if you have any question for us, or you want to raise a comment, or just say anything, you could do that. Also, I would also quickly also suggest that if you are listening to this, and if you listen to this later on, if there are any topics that you would like to listen about more or know more about, you should definitely DM us, or comment on the live or wherever, and we will pay attention to that, because because if it comes from you, we know that what we need to also kind of talk about more. So feel free to give us suggestions on what more would you like to listen to, what topics would you like us to touch upon as we go ahead with these kind of sessions. So Mansi, we have spoken a little bit about PCOS, PCOD, but can we quickly just talk about what is exactly the connection of this and sport? What are some of the things that as an athlete, these syndromes can actually affect you? What could be some of the things that you need to be aware of, and why is it so important from an athlete's perspective to understand
Okay,
this better?
so like generally PCOS is something which affects a person like, at the major life changes, and especially in reproductive age, which is like 18, 19 to 29, 30, which is the main age also of your career. That is
Right. Yeah.
in that phase only the career is
Yep.
made. So I feel like having attention because in this aspect, because if there are different types of PCOS we spoke,
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
like 3 to 4 types of PCOS, and if you
Yeah.
are not diagnosed well, you can't treat it well.
Right.
And
Right.
some types of PCOS won't even need treatment. So that is
Right.
also one part. But if you have these signs and symptoms and you are seeing like a dip in performance, you're feeling tired, your mood changes are affecting your training,
Right.
and also the food your difficulty to lose weight, especially you see in time when during puberty when females gain weight, and after some years it becomes very difficult to lose, and
Yeah.
they just keep on gaining weight. So during that time also it needs to, because that really affects your performance, and if there are no hormonal issues, generally physical activity and good nutrition balances it. But
Yeah.
in this case, you need a structured, like medical approach also, and the nutritional approach also. Like managing a PCOS, especially in like a competitive environment, is actually a lot of teamwork, because your
Yeah.
endocrinologist or doctor or gynac, whoever is you are consulting with, should be there.
Yeah.
Then your trainer should adjust the intensities, and main thing is nutritionist. Like
Right.
nutritionist should see, what foods you're metabolizing well, what is giving you extra weight, are you storing, like having water retention.
Right.
So all these things should be done together in the
Right.
team work, so that can be managed well.
Right. Great. I think, I mean, we've spoken a little bit about, how athletes can, what are the symptoms that an athletes can feel when, you might have some of these things. But sometimes we know that on the other side, when there is a coach involved, and maybe if it's a male coach involved, especially, and, is there any way of them understanding that an athlete might be going through this? I mean, is there anything that they might see in terms of changes or something like that for them to visibly see something? Is it even possible for a coach to visibly see changes and figure out कि कुछ चल रहा है? Yeah, what is the best way? Because what tends to happen is कि with the current ecosystem, you generally have an athlete not even talking openly about her period, or that she's going through a period, especially when it comes to the grassroots athletes, right? But for a coach, is there any way to recognize this at all? I mean, what would be the best way for a coach to recognize that, there is some issue going on in terms of, her menstrual, the PCOS, PCOD spectrum?
I think its first part is obviously coach education. He should be
Yeah,
educated about it. You cannot,
yeah,
treat anything which you don't know about. So that is
sure,
one thing. So
right,
he should know, he or she, anyone should know, like, and also it is correlated highly with, like psychological issues, which would
right,
be mood changes,
right,
anxiety. So that
right,
can be seen, I guess. The coaches are with the person throughout.
yeah,
So any changes psychologically are very, picked up fast by
yeah,
coaches compared to anyone. Like
yeah,
they know how, mind state of the person is. And if you
yeah,
see how the mind state is changing, especially around periods, and that
yeah,
might be affecting, and it is prolonged. That
yeah,
can be one thing. But other symptoms like, PCOD is what you call difficult to see, like the weight
yeah,
thing. Sometimes it is
yeah,
there, like one spectrum is difficulty lose weight, and the performance increases not well as it used to be,
yeah,
and it is getting more difficult.
yeah,
So that is one thing. And
right,
also like changes where you have increased amount of like facial hair, the body weight is
right, yeah,
getting, it's like clinical signs of metabolic syndrome,
yeah,
like the whatever fat is, it is just around the stomach, and the muscle
mm,
mass, ability to put on muscle mass is reduced.
right,
Injuries won't be like injuries don't follow a typical pattern with PCOS or PCOD.
right,
They don't have typical injuries. How, you say ki with female athlete, you
yeah,
systematically see more stress related bone injuries.
yeah,
That is, there hasn't been any injury related pattern seen with respect to PCOS. But I think so. Everyone, like if possible, there should be like screening questionnaires if it's
mm,
difficult to ask. So sometimes for coaches also it's difficult to remember so
yeah,
many things.
yeah,
So
yeah,
to have that, or to have, obviously, if they have a scientific staff on the board, that would be the best thing
yeah,
to talk with, and to, ask their opinion around and take a combined approach to this. But
yeah,
I think so any missed period or irregularity should be, referred to a gynac, and
yeah,
the I think so the coach should focus on, having a definite diagnosis, because that is something which gives result.
Right.
If you don't have diagnosis, you don't know what would be the best treatment.
Yeah.
Just going to a gynac and not asking what did she say, what is the
Yeah.
diagnosis,
Yeah.
won't help.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
focusing on the diagnosis would be the
Yeah.
best part.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I think we have a kind of we are coming to the end of this session. As we promised that this was going to be a quick, not more than 25 to 30-minute session. We want to stick to that because we want to keep them crisp and good enough for your brains to kind of start thinking about various things that we will touch upon as we go ahead. So I think you know. In this whole journey of an athlete and a coach, and especially a female athlete and a coach, I think we need to be very transparent with each other, and in that sometimes we kind of miss out on this whole physiological thing called periods. And I think for a female athlete it is very, very important to be informed herself, and especially as coaches as well, it's very important, like Mansi said, that you need to be informed about all of these things. If you're training a female athlete, it's a position of a lot of responsibility, especially when you're training young athletes, and you need to make that effort yourself to kind of ensure to understand these things about when you're training a female athlete, right? One of the best ways to do that, of course, is to attend our workshops. So we exactly do these kind of workshops, with both coaches and athletes, and we talk about all of this, especially with the whole idea of understanding how do you train a female athlete, क्या कर सकते हो, कैसे कर सकते हो, and how do you solve this. This is not an issue to solve, really. It's not an issue. It's a very natural, beautiful thing also, but it's also a thing that can impact performance both positively and negatively. So we need to just understand it, and our workshops could be one of the best places for you to do that. So please register to our workshops. The way to register to our workshops is to DM us, one, but please go to our website, simplyperiods.org. It's a fantastic website. I love it. I mean, I'm biased, and I think Mansi would be biased as well, because we are kind of so close to the cause. But go to the website. You will see the workshop space there. You can click the button on register now, and you can reach out to us through that if you want to get a workshop done for yourself, for a group of coaches, for your athletes. But yes, but please, you can also write to us through the website. There is a contact us space there, so you can write to us. Tell us what more would you like to understand. What are the things that you would like us to talk about as we go ahead with these sessions. But also, if you have any questions around our workshops, around the resources that we are trying to build, you can ask all of that through the website. And also, of course, we have our Instagram page where you are on right now, where you can DM us and ask us questions as well. So I think as of now, we don't have any questions on the comments. Let me just check once if there are any. Okay. So no questions so far.
But
So I think we will
you
just.
can always put in the saved version, I
Yes,
guess.
yes. Yes, I mean, people who have not joined us today or have just gone through the session and have some questions later on, write it in the comments, DM us, all of that is possible. We are very good at answering it quickly, so you will always get our answers very quickly on it as well. And also read up, there's so much knowledge out there, read up. And also, we always say this to our athletes and coaches that the best way to diagnose or to understand things better is to go to the expert, and the expert in this case will be a gynecologist. So always refer to a gynecologist when you take decisions around something like PCOS, PCOD. If you're seeing the symptoms that we spoke about, go to a gynecologist, right? You cannot rely, or you shouldn't rely on anything else other than the expert. So please do that. So awesome. So this comes. Thank you so much, Mansi, for doing. क्या बोलते हैं वो शुभारंभ क्या बोलते हैं ना शुभारंभ नहीं शायद शब्द है to kind of start these knowledge sessions, and we are looking forward to doing so many more. So do tune in whenever we do some of these. So thank you for everybody who joined. And have a fantastic rest of the Sunday. And again, thank you, Mansi, for doing this
Thank
session
you
with us. Thank
for
you. Have a great
designing
day.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and have a great week ahead, everybody. See you soon. And check us out through our website and through our Instagram page. Please be there. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.